complete!
Edge!
Everything's ready! Captain!
Emergency warp out! All hands, brace for impact!
Hello everybody and welcome to my video on Star Ocean 4. I'm recording this video because I am a massive fan of Star Ocean 4, the original on the PlayStation 3, and I was really excited to see the PlayStation 4 HD Remaster shape up as well. As you can see, it's a really gorgeous game. It looks every bit like a PlayStation 4 game, and in fact I'd even say it's probably it's probably better looking than Star Ocean 5, which was developed with the PlayStation 4 in mind. So yeah, this is the last great, I guess, Star Ocean game, and I'm hoping that a lot of people discover it. So to help you get a sense for what it's about, I've created this short video just to look at the first couple of hours of gameplay. It takes you about 2.5 hours into the game, and yeah, you'll get a sense for what it's all about and what the narrative's like and so on from this video. So watch and enjoy. So the game starts off with these two characters, Raimi and Edge. Edge is the main character, Raimi is the better character. I do love Raimi. But yeah, these two characters, they're kind of two of a group of a crew of astronauts who crash land on this planet, this tropical, it looks like a paradise. It's not, but it looks like a paradise, and this was identified as a new place for home. So there's a bunch of ships that have all crash landed through some defect in a wormhole that they used to travel through, and as a result these two decide that they need to go and find their other crews, the other ship's crews. Unfortunately, they've all lost contact with one another, so yeah, I guess that's the genesis for the game. That's the first chapter of it. Of course, as I said, this is not a tropical paradise at all. There are giant spider monsters that attack soon after, as you will see, and I think that's pretty much everybody's nightmare. And yeah, they're not pleasant looking animals, and that sets, I guess, the tone for it. Obviously, it's a JRPG, there's a lot of combat, and here we go. So, these spider things attack. You would think that with the guns that the characters have got, a spider shouldn't be too much of a trouble, even one that big and that ugly. But unfortunately, really unfortunately, the guns don't work. The spiders have some kind of shield around them, and the only thing that works in defeating them is primitive weapons, so swords and bows and so on. So it sounds very contrived, and of course it is. It's a bit of nonsense, but what it does do is set up, traditional swords and magic fantasy within a very science fiction setting. So you get a bit of both worlds, which is obviously what the Star Ocean series has always kind of been about. It's been about exploring planets, but feeling like a traditional JRPG. So yeah, you get the best of both worlds. Edge here gives up on the gun eventually and grabs that sword that a colleague lost when he was eaten, and discovers he's actually quite good with the sword and is able to kill the bugs, which is great for him. Raimi runs off and gets herself a bow, which makes her an archer type, and she becomes very good with the bow, which again works because it's a primitive weapon as opposed to a ballistics one. And yeah, then from that point on they decide that they're going to go and explore and, like I said, look for their allies. So here's the actual combat system in action. This is a little bit later on. They've explored a little bit, got a couple of experience levels. Still haven't found their crewmates, but they're now fighting blobby things rather than spiders. And as you can see, it looks a little bit like the Namco Bandai Tales of series, and it feels a little bit like it to play it, which is a good thing because that's a very dynamic, exciting combat system. And You obviously get experience levels as you go. At the moment, because it's quite early in the game, they don't have a whole lot of skills to choose between, so it feels a little bit button mashy, of course. Like most JRPGs in the early stages, it's a little bit simple, and it's not really representative of the entire game. As you start to get more characters and as you start to fight in more battles, and they get more experience and they get more skills, the level of depth of the combat system is actually quite impressive. So, as you would have seen, Edge found a ship, a crashed ship, and there's a survivor on the beach. So that's, I guess, the first objective met. This is about an hour a bit in the game. Unfortunately for them, this guy's a bit of a goner. As you can see, he doesn't look too well. Fortunately for them, they're about to meet their third party member, their first ally beyond the two of them. And interestingly, I guess for us, excitingly, we get to fight our first boss. So as you can see, he dies. Then the ship comes down, and it's obviously an alien ship. This is obviously not something that humans developed, but it's a friendly one, thank goodness. And out of it pops a guy called Phase, and Phase is their first ally. Like I said, he's an elfin-like alien character. Secretly, the governments of the two species, the humans and the aliens, had been in contact prior to the expedition setting out. These two didn't know it, so the initial contact is a little bit hostile. They feel a little bit threatened. They're not quite sure about one another, but it doesn't take long for them to realize that they're actually best of mates, or they're going to be best of mates. And yeah, here we go. See, pointing, trying to communicate. They have translators because, again, you need to come up with contrivances to make all this stuff work in this kind of science fiction. It does, but yeah, the idea of having a translator just work because they happen to meet each other is a little bit strange. Anyway, this is the first boss. As you can see, it's a big ugly thing, and one of the things I loved about Star Ocean 3, the original time I played it, was the variety, and the design of the bosses was so interesting that I was just really looking forward to running into each of them, because it would be something different. The challenge in beating the boss would be something different each time, and I was, you know, a couple of years younger back when I first played this game, so it was yeah, it was a good experience. This boss has a shieldy thing on the side. You need to break that down in order to get to the weak spot. Until then, you're not going to be able to do much damage to it. I'd forgotten how to do that, actually, so this combat took me a while. I'm not going to show you the whole thing. But yeah, once you beat this boss, then the real adventure starts, I guess. Edge gets his own ship, as you can see right here. And with that ship, he's now able to jump from planet to planet, and that's exactly what they do. So they get off this tropical island, leaving the rest of the humans to start the base there. By the time you leave, obviously, they've set up enough of a defense that they've got a little community going, so they're all okay. So it's okay for these guys to then go and pursue the next mission. And yeah, so they're just having a conversation about their new ship. And the fact that 3 of them is enough to control all of that, which I find amusing, but, you know, again, contrivances to make all this stuff work. You do get a lot of characters by the end of the game. You start off with just 3 of them, but eventually, you know, a huge cast joins you. You have to pick which characters you put into the battle team. Each character has their own special abilities and their own way of fighting, so mixing and matching the party up to get the one that's optimal for you is a fun process. Very standard RPG stuff, of course, but again, it works. And all the characters in this game have a lot of personality. They're all different enough that you'll have your favourites. For example, you know, I really do love Remy, so I use her for the entire thing, but, you know, Phase doesn't really phase me. I get rid of him eventually, once I've got enough other characters. So as you can see, this new world is very different in tone. It's frosty, it's cold, it's frigid, it has very different monsters to fight. And that's one of the great things about Star Ocean. And one of the things people didn't like about Star Ocean 5 was that it was so focused on a single planet that people felt it lost that kind of spacefaring exploration, Star Trek-ish atmosphere, which was, you know, so important to the previous Star Ocean games, including this one. So again, this is kind of the Star Ocean to go for on the PlayStation 4. Unfortunately, as much as we all wanted to love Star Ocean 5 and hope it was a return for the series, this is kind of the real one that you want to be playing. As you can see, I'm fighting off some chicken things. Different enemies for a different planet, of course. Keeps the variety going. and they're faster. You can already see from the combat that, you know, this is now 2 hours in. You can see that the combat's already getting more dynamic, more exciting, more varied. There's more ways to be killed. There's more ways to kill. So it doesn't take long. Like most JRPGs, there's that learning curve. There's that period of kind of, you know, relative stillness for the first couple of hours where it can be seen as dull, I guess. But you're talking about a game that's 100 odd hours, I think, from memory. It's a huge JRPG, so don't judge it on the first couple of hours. I'm showing you those now to give you a sense for it, but just, you know, be aware that even a couple of hours into play, my characters are already level 7, and, you know, they're much more interesting as a result. Level 1 characters never that interesting. Level 7s suddenly get much more interesting. So, just to finish this little video off, I'm going to skip past that other little enemy there, and this is the first village that you enter that isn't, you know, humans. These are human-looking people, but they're natives to this planet, and unlike in Star Trek, it's okay to make contact with them according to the rules of Star Ocean. And the interesting thing about this is there's some real-world parallels. These people saw the spaceship landing and worship these people, Raimi, Edge, and FaZe, as gods because they assume, you know, the almighty power, you know, came down from the heavens and all that kind of stuff. The real-world parallel is that, you know, that happened in the real world as well during World War II and supply drops. So thank you for watching, and look forward to the full review on DDNet soon. See you then.